Welcome back to the deep dive. It is really good to have you with us today.
Good to be here.
Usually when we sit down at this metaphorical table, we're unpacking these massive, dense tomes.
Mhm.
We're usually looking at, complex business strategies with 70-page white papers, or we're dissecting the latest scientific breakthrough. We're used to swimming in very deep, very heavy data.
That is definitely the norm, yes.
Yeah.
You usually have to wade through a lot of jargon to get to the nugget of truth.
Exactly. But today is different. Today we're looking at something that, on the surface, seems incredibly modest.
That's a good word for it.
It's a guide, a short text. It's titled Natural English Through a Muslim's Daily Routine. And I have to be honest with you, when I first saw this in our stack, I had a moment of, hesitation. I thought, okay, a language learning pamphlet, a list of phrases. How deep can this actually go?
I get that.
Is there enough here for a full deep dive?
I think that's a very common reaction to materials like this. We tend to judge the depth of insight by the page count or the complexity of the vocabulary.
Mhm.
But modest is the right word for the appearance, but definitely not for the content.
That's the thing. I actually sat down and read it, and we're going to really read it today, line by line, unpack the whole architecture of it. And I realized this isn't just about vocabulary.
Oh, not at all.
This isn't just a translation guide.
No, if you treat it as a translation guide, you miss the point entirely.
It's proposing a completely unique architecture for how we learn. Well, anything. It's tying English fluency directly to spiritual habits and the rigid structure of a daily routine. And that premise it blew my mind.
It is a fascinating pivot for us. The core premise here is it's really brilliant in its simplicity, but the implications are huge. I mean, think about why most adults fail at learning a new language.
Oh, yeah.
We all say we want to learn Spanish or French or Mandarin. We buy the apps, we buy the books, and then what happens?
I mean, where do I even start? Lack of time, you feel embarrassed, it's boring, the app yells at you for breaking your streak.
All true.
Huh.
But fundamentally, they lack a framework. They try to memorize abstract grammar rules, the pluperfect tense of the subjunctive.
Things you never actually use.
Right. Or they memorize lists of vegetables they're never going to buy. It's all abstract. It just floats in the ether. There's no hook to hang the information on.
Right. It's information without a home. You learn the word for library, but you aren't in a library, so your brain just dumps it.
Exactly. This source material, it takes an existing, very rigid, non-negotiable structure, the 5 daily prayers, and the routine of a practicing Muslim, and it uses that as a scaffold.
Press scaffold. I like that.
It says you don't need to build a new habit. You don't need to carve out a new hour in your day. You just need to hang English on the hooks you've already built.
And that's really the mission of this text, isn't it? To merge these two different worlds.
It is. It's merging discipline, which the learner already has from their religious practice, with growth, which is the language skill. And what really struck me, and I know we're going to spend some time on this, is how it uses sensory details.
Yeah.
It's not just rote memorization. It's embodied learning.
Yeah, and there's one specific parallel the text draws later on that I absolutely love, comparing the consistency of prayer to the consistency needed for fluency. It's a total light bulb moment.
Oh, for sure.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the very, very beginning. The text opens with a greeting that it does a lot of heavy lifting.
It really does. It starts with, Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother or sister. And then it immediately follows with, today, let's learn English in a simple and natural way.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. It's the standard greeting in the Muslim world. But why focus on that? Why is that significant from a learning perspective?
Well, context is everything.
Yeah.
Think about the anxiety of a typical language classroom. You walk in, everything is foreign, the teacher is speaking a language you don't understand, you feel judged.
Vulnerable.
Exactly, vulnerable. There's actually a term for this in linguistics called the affective filter. When your anxiety is high, your ability to learn just drops to zero.
You feel like a child again, basically. And not in a fun way. You just feel exposed.
Precisely. So by starting with Assalamu alaikum, the text creates psychological safety. It acknowledges the identity of the learner. It says, I see you. I know who you are. We're starting from a place of shared values. It lowers that affective filter immediately.
So it grounds the learner. It's saying, we aren't in a scary classroom. We're in your community.
And look at the promise that follows. Simple and natural. What a great introduction. It then pivots immediately to the intent. When we talk about our routine, our prayers, and our good habits, We also practice useful English.
Useful English. That's such a key distinction. We aren't learning, the pen is on the table.
Right.
I don't think I have ever needed to say the pen is on the table in a real conversation,
Yeah,
ever.
probably not. No. Here, we're learning how to talk about our actual lives.
Right.
And this leads us directly into the methodology the text uses. If you look at the language focus section, it gives a very specific instruction. It doesn't say conjugate these verbs. It says repeat these chunks.
Chunks. Yeah, I noticed that word. And it gives examples like I wake up early or I help others. Why chunks? What's the thinking there?
So this is a very specific pedagogical choice. It's called the lexical approach, or simply chunking.
Okay, break that down for us. What exactly is a chunk?
Well, think about how you learned your first language. When you were a toddler, you didn't learn the word give, and then the pronoun me, and then the demonstrative that, and then, mentally assemble them using grammar rules like a little computer.
No, I just shouted, "Give me that," and hoped for the best.
Exactly. To your brain, give me that
Yeah.
was one giant block of sound that produced a result. You got the toll. That is a chunk. It's a functional block of meaning. You didn't care about the grammar. You cared about the outcome.
So this text is trying to bypass all that grammar analysis and go straight to the function.
Yes. It says, and I'm quoting here, this is how we learn English, step by step, with meaning. That phrase, with meaning, is the secret sauce.
Right.
If I force you to memorize a list of random items, stapler, cloud, arbitrage, your brain treats it as noise. It filters it out. It says, this doesn't matter to my survival. But if you're learning a phrase that describes something you are actually doing, like I help others, the brain tags that as relevant information.
It completely removes the abstraction. You aren't simulating a conversation with a fictional character named John who lives in London and likes tea.
Right, you're not.
You are describing your own reality.
The text actually says you can use these same sentences to talk about your own day. It's inviting immediate ownership. And that creates a feedback loop. Every time you perform the action, you have the opportunity to reinforce the language.
Which brings us to the first major anchor point in the text, and I think this is where the genius of the method really starts to show. The morning routine.
Fajr.
Right. Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar with the terminology, Fajr is the pre-dawn prayer. It happens before the sun comes up, so we're talking early.
Very early.
Like 4:3500 a.m., depending on the season and, where you are in the world.
Oh, yeah. It's quiet. The world is asleep. There's a specific atmosphere at that time of day that is unlike any other.
And the text breaks this down into really evocative sentences. It starts with, I wake up early before the sun rises, and this is my favorite detail in the whole text. It says, I make wudu, the water feels fresh.
Stop right there, that line. The water feels fresh.
It seems so simple, just a descriptive sentence.
It seems simple, but it is a masterclass in sensory association. Let's just look at wudu. This is the ritual washing before prayer. You wash your hands, mouth, face, arms, feet. It's a very physical, tactile experience. Now imagine doing that at 5 a.m.
Yeah, the water is cold. It wakes you right up. It's a shock to the system. You feel it on your skin. You smell the water. You can hear the splash.
Exactly. By explicitly linking the English word fresh to that physical shock of cold water on the skin, the text is creating what psychologists call a somatic marker. This is embodied cognition. You aren't just reading the word fresh on a piece of paper. You are feeling it on your face.
So the next time the learner splashes water on their face,
their brain is primed to retrieve the word fresh. It connects the vocabulary directly to the nervous system. That is how you make language stick.
Yeah.
You bypass the translation center of the brain where you think, what is the word of fresh?
Yeah.
And you go straight to the sensory center.
It's like when you smell a certain food and you are instantly transported back to your grandmother's kitchen.
Yeah.
The sense triggers the memory. Here they're hacking that same mechanism to trigger a vocabulary word.
That's a perfect analogy. And it doesn't stop with the physical sensation. It moves immediately to the emotional state. It says, then I pray Fajr. It is quiet. I feel peaceful.
Again, look at that vocabulary choice. Quiet. Peaceful. It's associating the time of Fajr with a specific emotional regulation. It's teaching the learner not just to describe the time of day, but to describe their internal state.
And notice the progression. Physical sensation, fresh, leads to environmental observation, quiet, which then leads to internal emotion, peaceful.
Wow.
It's a comprehensive experience. It's teaching you to map your entire reality in English.
It's almost like creating a mood board for the morning.
Yeah.
You have the cold water, the dark sky, the quiet room, and this feeling of peace.
And then The text bridges the gap between the religious and the linguistic. It says, after Fajr, I start my day. I say, Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Praise be to God. It's a phrase a Muslim would say dozens of times a day. It's automatic.
It is automatic. It's a reflex. And by placing it right next to I start my day, the text is validating the learner's native expression while introducing the context for the English description. It's saying, you are grateful. You are saying Alhamdulillah. Okay, here is how we frame that moment in English. I start my day.
That feels very integrative. It isn't asking the learner to, leave their identity at the door to become an English speaker. It's saying English can fit inside your identity.
No, it's leaning right into it. It's saying your identity is the content. And that sets the tone for the rest of the day. As we move into the daily activities section of the source, the focus shifts completely. We move from that solitary, quiet morning to the busy social day.
Right. The text says, during the day, I do many things. I usually go to work or study. It moves into action mode. The energy just changes completely.
Yeah, and we see a distinct shift in the type of verbs used here. In the morning, it was feel, wake, pray. Very internal, very personal. Now we're seeing work, study, teach, learn. These are transactional verbs. We're out in the world, we're interacting with other people.
But even when we're out in the world, the text brings it back to values. This part really stood out to me as something unique to this specific guide. It says, I try to smile and say kind words. This is part of our deen.
That is a fascinating sentence. We need to unpack deen here. It implies religion, but it's actually broader than that. It's a way of life. It's the path.
So it's connecting the simple act of smiling to your faith.
It is reframing good manners, not just as social etiquette, but as a religious duty. Think about the motivation there. That is a massive psychological lever.
How so?
Well, if I tell you to learn the phrase, how can I help you? Or good morning, just because it's polite, you might learn it. You might not. It depends on how much you care about social niceties in a foreign culture.
Right.
But if I tell you that smiling and saying kind words is part of your deen, that it counts as a good deed, suddenly the stakes are completely different.
It adds this layer of higher purpose. You aren't just learning English to get by or to order a coffee.
No.
You're learning English to be a better person according to your own values.
Precisely. It turns the English practice into a virtue. It shifts the motivation from extrinsic, I want people to like me, to intrinsic, I want to fulfill my spiritual duty, and intrinsic motivation is always, always stronger.
And look at the examples of community service it provides immediately after that. I help my family. I help my neighbors.
It's very aspirational,
Yes,
isn't
sir.
it? It's teaching the learner to describe themselves as a helper.
Identity-based learning is incredibly powerful. We've talked about James Clear and Atomic Habits before, and we see it right here in this little pamphlet.
Exactly. If you can get a learner to say, I am the kind of person who helps my neighbors, they're more likely to actually do it, and they're certainly more likely to remember the English words for it. It constructs a positive self-image through the new language.
I love that. I try to be kind and helpful. It's a simple sentence, subject, verb, adjective, but saying it out loud creates a standard for yourself. It's almost like a daily affirmation.
And it contrasts beautifully with the hustle and bustle implied by work and study. It reminds the learner that even in the middle of the daily grind, the core identity, the person who smiles, who helps, remains constant. And the English language is the vehicle for expressing that.
So we've gone from the quiet morning to the busy day, and now the sun starts to go down. We move into the evening routine. The text says, at the end of the day, I come home.
Which creates a narrative arc. We have the departure, and now we have the return. It feels like a story. And human brains are just wired for stories.
And the atmosphere changes again. It says, I pray Maghrib, I eat with my family, we talk, we laugh, we thank Allah.
Notice the shift in pronouns there. This is subtle, but it's really important. In the morning, it was all I wake, I make wudu. Now it is we talk, we laugh.
It's emphasizing the communal aspect.
It paints a really nice picture. It's not just eating, it's connecting.
Hmm.
We talk, we laugh. I mean, those are two of the most universal human experiences. And from a language learning perspective, the dinner table is often the most intimidating place.
Oh, for sure, because of the speed of conversation.
The speed, the slang, overlapping voices, people talking with their mouths full. It's chaos. But here, the text simplifies it. It focuses on the feeling of the interaction. We laugh. If you could say that, you're part of the group.
And culturally, this is significant too, right? The Maghrib prayer happens right at sunset. It marks the end of the workday and the beginning of the night. It's a natural transition point.
Absolutely. The text uses this transition to pivot from the external world, work, neighbors, back to the inner circle,
Mm.
the family. It validates that family time is a key part of the routine. It's not just I watch TV, it's I eat with my family. It reinforces the social fabric.
But then the guide goes even deeper. After dinner, after the laughter, we get to the Isha prayer, which is the night prayer. And the text introduces a concept here that I think is really advanced, even though the words themselves are simple.
You're talking about the reflection section.
Yes, the text says, "Before I sleep, I reflect on my day." And then it asks these questions. Did I do my best? Did I remember a lot?
This is the concept of muhasaba, or self-inventory. It's a spiritual practice of reviewing your actions at the end of the day. But look at what it's doing linguistically. This is a huge leap from what we saw in the morning.
How so? What do you mean?
Up until now, the text has been describing actions or observations. I walk, I wash, I see, it is quiet. Now it is describing thoughts. It is evaluating the self. Did I do my best? That's a complex cognitive task.
It's internal dialogue. It's the voice in your head.
Exactly. And to do that in a second language is a major, major milestone. It's moving from what did I do to how did I do it and was it good?
It's metacognition. It's thinking about your own thinking.
And by providing the English words for that internal monologue, the text is inviting the English language into the learner's most private thoughts. If you can start thinking your self-reflection in English, you are well on your way to fluency. You're breaking that barrier between me and the language.
So it's creating a space where English isn't just for talking to strangers or ordering food. It's for talking to yourself. That's intimate.
It is. And look how it closes the loop. The text ends the day with, I say, Alhamdulillah, and sleep with peace.
We're back to peace.
We started with peaceful in the morning, and we end with peace at night. It creates a perfect cycle. The structure of the day is resolved. It gives the learner a real sense of completion.
That's a really satisfying structure. It feels like a complete story.
It is. And that narrative structure aids memory. I mean, we're storytelling creatures. If you know the story of your day, you can predict the language you'll need to tell it.
Okay, so we've walked through the day, but we haven't touched on what I think is the most powerful part of this entire source. There's a section called motivational closing, and this is where the text stops being just a guide and starts being a coach.
Yes, this section is the philosophical core of the method. If you miss this, you really miss the point.
It says, remember, learning English is not just about words. It is about discipline. It is about growth.
That word discipline is key. We live in a world that is obsessed with hacks and shortcuts and motivation. We want to feel inspired. We wait for the muse. We want learning to be effortless.
Yeah, we download the app and use it for 3 days until the streak breaks, and then we never open it again because we don't feel like it.
Exactly. But this text just flips that on its head. It says, no, it's not about how you feel. It's about discipline.
And then it drops the hammer. It says, just like our prayers, we do it every day.
That is the crucial analogy.
Just like our prayers.
Think about what that means to the target audience. A practicing Muslim prays 5 times a day, every single day, regardless of how they feel.
Right.
They don't pray only when they feel motivated. They don't pray only when it's convenient. They do it because it is the practice. It is the discipline. It is non-negotiable.
It's a pillar of their life. You don't skip it just because you're tired or busy.
Right. And the text is saying, apply that same non-negotiable consistency to your English. You already have the muscle memory for discipline. You already know how to show up when you don't feel like it. You do it 5 times a day.
So it's saying you don't need to find new discipline. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You just need to direct a fraction of the discipline you already have toward this new skill.
Exactly. It creates a bridge. It leverages the learner's existing success. It's extremely empowering. It removes the fear of failure, that feeling of, I'm not the kind of person who can learn languages, and replaces it with the certainty of routine. I am the kind of person who shows up every day.
That is such a powerful reframing because people always say, oh, I just don't have the discipline to learn a language. And this text is saying, yes, you do. You prove it 5 times a day. You just haven't applied it here yet.
It's habit stacking on a spiritual level. It really is.
And it emphasizes patience too, doesn't it? It says, bit by bit, we improve.
Bit by bit. It echoes the concept of sabr, or patience, which is another huge virtue in the faith. It frames the struggle of learning not as a sign that you're bad at it, but as a necessary part of the journey.
It explicitly says, may Allah bless your journey.
It calls it a journey.
And it ends with, keep going, you are doing well. It's so encouraging. It recognizes that this is hard work. It's not promising fluency in 10 days.
No.
It's promising growth through consistent effort,
It's a very grounded, realistic promise. Do the work, get the result.
which, if you think about it, is the same logic applied to the spiritual practice itself. You pray to maintain your connection, to improve your character. You practice English to improve your mind and your opportunities. They're just parallel tracks of self-improvement.
So when we look at this entire text, from the Assalamu alaikum at the start to the Wassalamu alaikum at the end, what is the big picture here?
Yeah.
We have a text that takes a very specific cultural and religious routine and turns it into a language lab. The big picture is context. Context is everything in learning. We so often try to learn things in a vacuum. We sit in a sterile room and study flashcards. But this text succeeds because it doesn't ask the learner to step into a vacuum.
It doesn't ask them to pretend to be someone else.
No. It asks them to bring their whole self, their faith, their schedule, their values, their family into the learning process. It validates their life as a valid subject for English.
That's a really important point. Often when you learn a language, the materials are very Western-centric or, secular. John goes to the pub, Mary goes to the cinema. If that's not your life, there's friction.
Exactly. There's a cognitive disconnect. You think, this isn't for me. But here, the cognitive load is so much lower. You don't have to imagine a scenario. You are living it. You don't have to invent a motivation. You are connecting it to your deen.
You don't have to build a new habit from scratch.
You're attaching it to the prayers you already do.
It's the ultimate habit stack.
It really is. And it uses those sensory details, the fresh water, the quiet morning, the laughter at dinner, to make the language vivid and memorable.
It makes you rethink how we approach learning. Well, anything. We often try to compartmentalize, okay, from 7 to 8 p.m. is my study time, but this suggests that the learning should live in the spaces between everything else.
Or rather, that the learning should overlay everything else. It shouldn't be a separate box. It should be a lens through which you view your entire day.
Master your day and you will master the language.
That's the unspoken motto here, for sure.
We talk a lot about immersive learning, and usually that means moving to a different country or changing your phone language, but this is a different kind of immersion.
It's internal immersion.
It's immersing the language into your life rather than immersing your life into the language.
That's a great way to put it. It integrates English into the existing flow of the day. And because that flow is cyclical, it happens every 24 hours, the repetition is guaranteed. If you actually follow this guide, you're practicing your English at dawn, at noon, in the evening, and at night. You can't avoid it.
And you are practicing it with meaning. You aren't just reciting sounds, you are connecting fresh to water. You are connecting peace to silence.
And that connection to meaning is what transitions a word from short-term memory to long-term memory. It sticks because it matters.
It's fascinating stuff, and it makes me wonder about our listeners. We have people from all walks of life listening to this deep dive. You might not be Muslim. You might not have a prayer routine.
But everyone has a routine.
Exactly. Everyone wakes up, everyone eats, everyone interacts with someone, everyone goes to sleep.
The principle is universal. It's the principle of anchoring new skills to old habits.
And the principle of narrating your own life. If you want to learn a skill, stop treating it as some theoretical exercise. Start applying it to the things you're already doing.
If you're a runner, narrate your run. If you're a chef, narrate your cooking. Use the structure you already have.
But I want to leave you with a specific thought today, something that really stuck with me from that nightly reflection section we discussed. The text asks, did I do my best?
Such a powerful, simple question.
It is. And the text suggests asking this every single night. Now imagine if you viewed your own skill building, whether it's learning English or coding or leadership or just being a better parent, with that same reverence and consistency as a spiritual practice.
That changes the game.
If you asked yourself every night, did I do my best at this skill today? Not, did I win or did I finish, but simply, did I do my best? How much faster would you grow?
The accountability is internal. That's where the real growth happens. It's not about the teacher giving you a grade. It's about you looking in the mirror, or in this case, reflecting before sleep, and be honest with yourself. Did I remember? Did I try?
And then waking up the next morning, feeling the fresh water, and starting again.
Bit by bit.
Bit by bit. That is all we have for this deep dive. A huge thank you to the author of Natural English Through a Muslim's Daily Routine for this fascinating little window into a different way of learning. We hope you found some nuggets in there to apply to your own daily rituals, whatever they may be.
It was a real pleasure to explore this with you.
As always, thanks for listening. We will catch you on the next deep dive. Take care.